This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Throw, scoops it ahead, bouncing puck, Foligno trying to win the foot race, diving, he'll score! Marcus Foligno from his side, able to muscle it in, and it's 3-1 Minnesota with 15 seconds to go.
Russo Radio.
What's going on, Michael?
How you doing, bud?
Good. At Russo Hockey via Twitter for the preeminent sports beat writer. In the opinion of yours truly, I've explained why before. That's not puffery. It's straight from my heart. And he's Michael Russo at Russo Hockey via Twitter. Tonight first, Marc-Andre Fleury in his final game in Montreal at a building known as Hockey Immortality. I mean, it's a special night tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm sure that he's going to want to go out, feeling really good about himself. Obviously, the Canadians have been much better here in the second half of the season and have won a lot of big games against big teams this year. So he knows it's going to be a test. He's got his entire family coming via bus from his hometown, his sister, his mom, tons of cousins, and he's going to want to put on a show. They always treat him like royalty in Montreal. I mean, we saw his last game with Chicago when he got that big shutout there and they're chanting his name down the stretch. Last year when we didn't know if it was going to be his last game in Montreal, he had a huge game there, played outstanding, in a game where, if I remember, Dewar and Duhaime were absolute studs and got them an early lead. And same thing down the stretch. They serenaded him. So, I know that he's going to want to put on one final really brilliant show tonight here, or tonight at the Bell Center.
But at Bell Center tonight, I mean, he didn't play for Montreal. So, but it's like that evening in Pittsburgh, touching as it was, the Penguins were at a disadvantage that evening. I'm not going to say it was a wild home game, but if I'm a member of the Penguins, it's great. He's immortality. Love the guy. Love playing with him. HOF go crazy. But it kind of tilted the game a little bit. I felt that's not the case tonight, right?
Well, I mean, I think that the Wild are going to come on out and put on if you're saying how it's going to motivate both teams, I think the Wild are going to come out and try to play hard for Marc-Andre Fleury, and I do think that you're right. I mean, the Pittsburgh game, it felt like the entire game they were doing all sorts of tributes to him and things like that, and when they did the big one, it was right before face-off, right before the Penguins were going on the power play. And even Fleury was like, come on, let's drop the puck already. And he actually yelled at the linesman to drop the puck. I mean, tonight, I think that, any time that Montreal has to do something classy, they figure out a way. And I think that they're going to, pay homage to him in the proper way today. I mean, you're right. He's never played for the Canadians, but he's from there. And that province in particular is just so proud of the great goalies that they've produced there, from Marty Brodeur to Patrick Watt to now Marc-Andre Fleury. These are three incredible Hall of Famers. Mark looked up to both of them as a kid. If you remember 3-4 years ago, I actually got invited, to his house up in Quebec and got to take a tour of his treasure troves. And he's got, game-worn masks from all his idols, in particular those two. And I just think that he absolutely loves playing in front of that fan base and the family that's going to be at the game tonight. And there's just no doubt that I think the Wild are going to try to, with probably tired legs, put on a real quality effort in front of them.
Well, they'll win, right? I mean, it's a road game. So it's for whatever.
Yeah, that's usually the case. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, okay, beating the Blackhawks 4-3 and how that game, got a little weird late, whatever. I mean, last night, first without Kaprizov, so you got that mental that mental fatigue, if there's even any, because they had a winning record without him in the first place. But I mean, it's Montreal's good. Matthews, Niedermeyer, and the gang, they're good. And they won the game, and obviously opened up a little bit with that empty netter by Foligno late. But I mean, I don't think it's too flippant, even on a back-to-back, to say, well, they'll win. It's a road game. All they do is win on the road. They never win at home.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and you're right. I mean, it was impressive. They've had just a slew of impressive road wins this season, and with and without Kaprizov. We saw the game in Dallas without Kaprizov. We saw the games in Washington and Raleigh. We saw the game in Colorado without Kaprizov. And They just find a way, and they've, especially against the Eastern Conference, by the way, the Wild are the best team in the league against the East, coming from the Western Conference. Their road play this year, I mean, in 27 games, they've already equaled last year's road win total. So, I mean, they've just been truly unreal. Last night was very, very impressive. They've done it, up until that 4-game losing streak, that blip that they had toward the tail end of the Kaprizov being out of their lineup. I mean, they were outstanding without him. And just put, the one thing is that there's no room for error. They have to work their absolute butt off. And, Billy Guerin, I talked to him before the Chicago game, and the one thing that he's been really dismayed about, the last half dozen to 8 or 9 games is the lack of energy inside that locker room and why it's translating onto the ice. And, they've gone through all sorts of injuries. They've gone through a ton of illness, and he wants to see them start to get back on track. And you're right. I mean, the first 2 periods against Chicago were impeccable. They had a really, on fumes, fight to the end to get those 2 points. So then they go and continue their road trip in a very tough building that is never very kind to the Wild. And they have just a tremendous game against Marner and Nylander and Austin Matthews and Morgan Riley yesterday. Fourth line was tremendous. The one thing I'll say, and I give John Hines a lot of credit, is that, when you have extra bodies, I think sometimes when you're not playing well, it behooves you as a coach to take some guys out of the lineup and send messages. And sometimes it shouldn't be just the guys that you'd expect. And so we go to Chicago the other day, and you're thinking, all right, it'd be easy for him to, if he wants to throw in Devin Shore or a Travis Dermott, that you could take out a Johnny Merrill or a Jacob Lauko or something like that. But he surprises us and takes out Chisholm and Trenyon. And don't think for a minute that guys don't start looking around the locker room thinking, I'm next. Ryan Hartman's on the 4th line that night in Chicago. Lauko knows that he could be easily taken out of the lineup. Johnny Merrill knows that he could easily be taken out of the lineup. So what happens in Toronto yesterday? Lauko was tremendous. Hartman had a really quality game, and John Merrill was so good that they gave him the hard chain after the game with some huge block shots down the stretch. So I think that sometimes it's important for a coach to use the limited, things in your arsenal and basically make some moves. And I think that he woke some guys up to really try to improve, their third defense pair and their bottom 6.
All right, now last one.
Russo Radio.
And it's a 2-parter, 2 minutes, you get it all. I want to begin first and foremost with something you said about Ryan Hartman. You know better than anybody, but in having John Hines, the coach, on weekly, including yesterday, he every time I ask a Hartman question, he says the same thing. So it's clearly when Hartman is not moving his feet, moving his legs, not churning, clearly that works on the last nerve of John Hines. I think that's pretty easy to deduce. That's first. Secondly, Joel Eriksson-Ek's work in the final 90 seconds to 2 minutes of that game last night, he was indefatigable. I don't know how long he was on the ice. He saved the game. He was so good he's good, period. But at the end of the game, Eriksson-Ek and the indefatigable nature of his approach, and then Foligno with the tenacity to dive and get the empty netter. How about those guys last night?
Yeah, no, I mean, they played a really gritty game last night. And to your Hartman point, there's no doubt that Ryan Hartman at times really bothers John Hines. And he's trying to get this guy to play much, much better. He's improved his game clearly, the last month of the season, but there are times where he just has to be downgraded in the lineup and sent wake-up calls because of his lack of moving his feet or especially on the back end of the ice playing defensively. And it just drives John nuts. And I think that Ryan started when you're on the fourth line in Chicago in your hometown, that hits you where it hurts. And I think it did wake him up a bit. I think that he's going to try to start to play better here. But he is not somebody that's just penciled into the lineup in erasable pen there. I mean, this is somebody that could easily be taken out of the lineup. I think he knows it. I think that he knows that he doesn't have the greatest relationship with the coach. And I think that he's got to start to play better if he's going to want to, not have Bill Guerin move him this offseason when all of a sudden that no move becomes a limited no trade. In terms of Eriksson Ek, I couldn't agree with you more. He was just tremendous down the stretch. There were so many guys that played hard down the stretch to get that win last night. I mean, they could have given that hard chain to, a half a dozen guys the way that they played. And Eriksson Ek won some huge draws. He was just an absolute, he had an incredible stick to knock the puck into the neutral zone a couple times, against really quality offensive players, played tremendous defensively to get the puck down deep, just missed an empty goal himself. And then Foligno when that net is empty, he's who you want on the ice defending. He just does it all the time. Whether he scores the goal or not, he just works his absolute butt off to get pucks out of that offensive zone and out of danger. And we see him now start to score. He's got goals in 3 straight. He's still their best defensive forward by a long shot. His numbers are just tremendous defensively. So, they're going to have to continue to play like this for the next month or change without Kaprizov. There's no doubt about that.
You are elite. Safe travels. Talk to you next week.
Yep, see you, PA.
Michael Russo at Russo Hockey via the X Machine. The Wild look to win another one this evening. They are taking on the Montreal Canadiens, and that game is on KFAN. Back after this.
And
truncated Vike Bites. And Vike Bites is brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef.
Beefy.
And they're a Clearwater, Minnesota company. I was in the hall yesterday running back from the bathroom before the final segment, and Matt, the owner of Thousand Hills, was in the hallway. And he was telling me about how nutrient-dense and some new studies that are coming out, and I'm just totally going to butcher this stuff, but it's like omega and it's fatty acids and all of these things. Well, if you're looking for healthy beef and delicious beef, Clearwater, Minnesota's finest, Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed, regenerative agriculture, the whole thing, so much more. There's a science and a beauty to it that I can't properly articulate, but Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed, grass-fed beef brings you Vike Bites. And it's kind of a singular bite, and I'm just going to kind of build off of part of our conversation last hour with Ben Lieber. 1355. That's not just my ATM code. That does happen to be, as of now, the current draft pick allotment of the Minnesota Vikings. So I'll just lay it out like this. I mean, we know Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, and forget contract negotiations and whatever, that part of the future holds for Kwesi. He's our GM, and he's going to be making a lot of decisions, measured spending spree, the whole bit. But as it pertains to the draft, is there a way in the realm of putting arbitrary percentages on things? Because we're talking, earlier in the show, PA, I'm excited about this South Dakota guy, Gray Zobel. I'm in love. I'm glad that you mentioned it's, I think it was yesterday when you first brought him up. I've been watching Caleb Johnson highlights from Iowa for like the last 2 weeks, and I'm dream weaving, and I'm just thinking, man, if we redid our offensive line and we got the kind of running back, the quality running back that the Detroit Lions have in Jahmyr Gibbs, but we got our guy, and he wears Hawkeye colors, and we can talk about him with Greenway every week. And then we got JJ. We got an O-line and a run game for JJ. Let's play. So with that said, though, limited draft capital, if you were going to put arbitrary percentages on things, PA, what do you think about the GM,
It's impossible.
Kwesi don't dance. He just pull up his pants and deal the pick away. And trade back. And trade back. and trade back. And trade back. Come on now. Quasey, don't dance. He just pull up his pants. What do you think? I mean, just arbitrary percentages. You're sitting at 24. It's like, what if you jump back into 2 and you found yourself in this massively deep running back class and you found your way to a guy like this Gray Zobel cat? You got better on the O-line. You got a potential game-changing running back with a guy into his second year under center.
A trade back.
What do you think, Quasey? What are you thinking? You got an arbitrary. Yes, there we go.
That's what I'm thinking.
The GM is Quasey.
Hey.
The GM is Quasey.
I called a ref a bozo, and I got thrown out. Hey. The days.
Anything could happen. I'm putting you in a bad spot.
No, you're not.
Anything could happen.
No, you're not. Well, of course anything can happen. I'm just going to lay it out honestly. The days of the announcer rolling in day of draft and hitting you with an Anthony Barr.
Oh my gosh.
They may have been left in the wake of a keen turn of steam seeking / verbal steam, verbal speed. But nevertheless, it's just look at what he's done through. I mean, it's here we are in the Jamison spot. We go back for Scene. Then stayed in the Addison spot, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, now you're moving all over the draft. You know, you're trading with the Jets to get up and get.
And we jumped up a
the
spot.
Kid. Well, now you're moving up a mile to get the edge guy.
Right.
So,
which is why we're in this trade back spot potentially. Who knows?
Right. But I mean, I would look at it.
A draft party when you got to stand up there and 23's on the clock and you see the little helmets on NFL Network and the Vikings logo disappears.
Just trade the pick at the combine. Okay? And trade out of the second, too, just in case. But a trade back. But I make us, the Vikings, not picking at 24, 85%.
Me too.
85%.
Yep.
Which way to go? I don't know. I'm not averse to going up if there's, this is a 14-win team that, granted, like a lot of teams, have spots to fill.
Yeah. But
there's a lot of talent here, man.
There is.
And so therefore, and you got quarterback Za. You have the kid, and I stick by what I say, and people can take me deep all they want, but with all due respect, I don't mean to sound confrontational or flippant, but after what we saw from Sam Darnold the entire season, the majority of it till the end, if Daniel Jones is playing quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, the coaching staff gets the absolute benefit of the doubt and is elevated by me that it's not, I hope Daniel works out. No, Daniel will work out. It's a matter of at what level he works out and how high it is.
Yep.
Because Daniel's gifted, like Sam was gifted. So the fact they're in a really good position there, it just lends credence to confidence moving forward with whatever they do with free agency in the draft.
Well, and it's different because J.J. McCarthy's unproven, but the way that we talked about the Commanders, where the Commanders, technically, if it's just all assets involved, they're in a better spot. They get some more cash to spend. They do have most of their draft picks. But in the end, the idea is the positivity in Washington revolves around having an answer at the quarterback spot, and now you're able to now we got to do other things.
Right.
And the Vikings, again, we need to finally see J.J. get his run, and we'll get to see that at some point, maybe soon. But they are in that spot where we're not sweating the fact that Carson Beck is deciding to go back to school. We're not sweating, damn it, we won 14 games. There's no way we could get to Cam Ward.
Yep.
We don't have to worry about that. We are in a spot where the O-line matters. General manager, we got to win in the draft, dude. Like, we got to hit on these picks. There's no doubt about that. But we're not sweating. We got to hit a home run to get a QB. We're just, I think we are in a good spot. We just, we need the GM to hit some home runs in April.
Yes, sir.
That's Vike Bites, brought to you by Thousand Hills.
Thanks for the Vike Bites. 11:45, 9 to noon continues after this.
KFAN.
I can't wait until tomorrow. You like that? 'Cause tomorrow
9 to noon.
might very well be too late.
Well, tomorrow is the Friday football feast. PA in charge, Nordo by our side. And Nordo suggested a guest who will join us tomorrow, a writer named Dan Pompei, writes for The Athletic, theathletic.com. He's Chicago-based. Dan has been a National Football League writer for many decades. Very, very well-respected, very good at what he does. He wrote a story, a deeply rooted story about Teddy Bridgewater, who just finished playing backup quarterback for the Detroit Lions and actually got into the game in the divisional round game, having only been there for maybe 2.5 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. He got there the week they were playing the Vikings.
Yep.
At the end of the year. I have not read the story. Clearly you did. You suggested that I find Dan. So we got that together tomorrow for 10:03. With that story, what did you like about that story?
Well, I like it because in some ways, and it's perfect, this time of the year, we're still sifting through the ashes. I get it, and Super Bowl ahead and all of that, and we're not included. But, Teddy's run with us, tragic as it ended with the injury in 2016. I remember the 2017 season. You were there, PA, the Cincinnati game when he walked onto that field.
Oh, wow.
And just as a human and how quickly he endeared himself to this franchise, despite the fact, hey, Teddy was never going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, and, maybe who knows what without the injury, how things could have been different. But, the guy who Teddy is and what he meant to his hometown community, he goes down, decides he's going to retire. He's going to coach his high school football team. I think it's Northwestern, maybe Miami Northwestern.
Yeah.
And wins a national or state title, excuse me. And that's after kind of spending some time just kind of huffing and puffing around, one of 4 or 5 quarterbacks on the roster with the Lions. And then, like you said, a couple of weeks later, he's from the street to the beat where he's at Ford Field.
That's what it was?
And Goff's trying to shake off the injury that he sustained after, I think it was Frankie Louvu just absolutely pasted him with that on that pick 6 play.
Oh, yeah.
And he's in there calling plays. Like, I've always respected Teddy. Was there greatness there? You can debate that among yourselves. I just really love Teddy. Pompei, and that's part of The Athletic too, the Pompei and your ability with the freedom of space, we'll
yes, sir.
say. Pompei is one of the better writers in the sports business. You've gone down that road about columnists, and, you think about some of the great writers that shaped your view of sports when you were younger. I think Pompei is one of the really good ones with The Athletic, and it's Teddy. It's Vikings focused and a little Covenant catch up with Pompei on a topic that is drenched in purple. I think it's pretty cool.
So we have been, 36. We have been together for 33 segments this week. There are 45 segments during the course of the weeks. We have 9 remaining tomorrow.
Yeah.
We just mentioned the middle part, Dan Pompei, 10:03. Greenway will be 10:15 till about 10:55.
That's kind of weird. How are we going to get through the first hour without his energy boost?
Well, my question actually would be, what's after 33 segments together, 36 segments this week for me?
Yeah.
What's Charge going to want to talk about tomorrow?
Yeah, Chart. Well,
what's he going to want to talk about?
I need to know if I need to find out if he hit his Samaje Perine prop bet.
He caught one pass at the end of the game, but I didn't look to see if it was over 11.5.
But I think and I think he wanted the 2 receptions. I think it was over the 1.5. He was getting plus money at DraftKings.
I thought it was a yardage thing.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. So I'm excited. I guarantee you he'll tell us.
Well, great. You bring that up 3 minutes into the show. Guess who loses him for the final 8 3/4 segments of the show?
No, I'm smart about this.
Well, he'll quit.
I know
he'll not quit, but he'll stop talking.
I know you well enough not to surprise you with any controversy on the air. Similarly, Charge, when he rolls in with coffee at about 8:30, I'm going to ask him. Just feel it out.
There we go.
And then if it's in his favor, I'll bring it up and I'll give him the opportunity. Fantasy Football Weekly raise to peacock, if you will, a bit, if Perine paid off.
So, in other words, I'm just going to tell him to watch the Wolves tonight.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you very much for listening to 9 to Noon. It's 11:53. I'm Paul Allen. Here comes from the fighting city of Mankato, ladies and gentlemen. He's opened up for Wiz Khalifa. He opened up for Ja Rule. He had a chance to tour with Beyonce and turned it down. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the real rapping talents in the history of the game, Big Daddy Khan. Time for 2 more.
I had a chance to tour with Beyonce, huh? Okay.
And turned it down.
A lot of talk on the show about prospects, and we're excited to think about who Kwesi selects. So many names on the wall, we'll see what sticks. At least we have plentiful draft picks. Oh, wait, sorry for being sarcastic. It's a first, third, and 2/5. Fantastic. Seriously, for us to get on track, would you be annoyed if the team trades back? Because have you seen Caleb Johnson? Good grief. And this South Dakota lineman, he's all beef. A run game and line, 8 topics, it's my belief. Just watch what Philly does in NOLA to the Chiefs. It's the Wolves and Wild tonight, a double feature. Eric Sinek patrolling the ice like Jack Reacher. Need a big Rudy game at Utah, he's a creature. The feast tomorrow with Charge, the prop bet preacher.
Hang on to leads and grab some beads.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.